When I talk about this recipe being an older, more old-fashioned recipe, is because it's more of a biscuit. I've got 4 cups of self-rising flour, and you can use lard or you can use shortening, and I've got a handful, and I got about 1 cup of buttermilk. You never know for sure how much buttermilk you're going to need. You may need less than a cup, and you may have to get a little bit more of the buttermilk. You just never know. So I've got about 3/4 cup of either lard or shortening, and I'm just going to continue to work it into 4 cups of self-rising flour with this buttermilk, and I'll just pour a little bit at a time until I get it all worked in. Self-rising flour was invented over in England, and it was invented in the 1800s. So self-rising flour has been around for a long, long time. So you just keep pouring in your buttermilk, and you just keep working that buttermilk in with your shortening, and you just gather up that flour as you're working all that together. And you'll see how it all comes together. I absolutely love this recipe for making my hand pies. It is a flaky, it fries up so flaky and so good. So just, if you're watching my hands, just kind of pull that flour in and just fold it over. And when you think you need a little bit more milk, you just put some milk in there. Now, if you don't have buttermilk, or you don't want to use buttermilk, you can use just regular sweet milk or evaporated milk, powdered milk. Make up your own milk, fresh cow's milk, whatever you got. I don't know if any of y'all remember, but a lot of times I've seen Danny's mama do it too, and I've done it. Leftover pie crust, just cut it in strips and sprinkle a little bit of sugar and cinnamon on it and bake it up. And those little pie crust Crispies is what we called them. They taste so good. And that's what this crust is going to remind you of, because when you fry this up, now when I make these, I make them to look very rustic. I don't cut them in a perfect round circle. I don't make sure that when I seal them up that the edges are perfectly round and everything's just beautiful, because that's not what they would have done. These hand pies come together, and they put them together pretty quick. The men would take them when they'd go off to work in the coal mines, or if they were going out in the field to pick cotton, or just if they were farmers going out in the field to do whatever they had to do. And it wasn't always fruit pies. It could be a savory pie. It could have been meat and potato. It could have been a bean. It could have been a bean and potato. So many different ways. But this was the easiest way for the wife and the man to pack the lunch, because it was a hand pie. Now, I forgot to put my 1 egg in there, y'all. I should have mixed that up when I was mixing up my buttermilk and my shortening. Usually I would have poured that right in there with them, and I forgot my egg. So you're going to need 1 egg, and I'm just going to work that into my dough. It'll all come out. But when you do this, break that egg in there with your buttermilk and your shortening as you're working it in. I'm glad I thought about that, because that egg is what gives it that extra richness and flakiness. But anyways, a hand pie was just easy for the men to carry with them, and when it was lunchtime or break time, they could just unwrap it and just eat it all. And they didn't have all this extra food and stuff to have to carry and mess with. They could just unwrap that and just eat it, and it would fill them up. And if y'all would like for me to do it, and I do have an older video doing a meat pie. Now, in different countries, they're called different things and made just a little bit different. But when I make them, it's just how I grew up with them. My grandma made meat pies, and she made them with ground beef and potatoes. And if you'd like to see something like that, I can do a recipe on that too, a video. So that is our flaky crust. And like I said, it's more of like a biscuit. And they just turn out so wonderful. Now, usually, I do have several different videos making fried pies. And the dough recipes are just a little bit different. But this is my favorite right here. And I've got enough made up here that I'll use probably maybe half of it, not for sure. And put the rest in the freezer. And then when I want to make a bunch of more hand pies, fried pies, whatever you want to call them, I'll just take my dough out and thaw it out, and it'll be ready to go. Now, I'm not overthinking this. I'm just rolling them out to get them put together so we can get them in a hot skillet. So I just take a little bit and roll it in a ball, kind of flatten it out a little bit. Then I'll roll it around in the flour a little bit, kind of work it around, kind of like you was making homemade tortillas. But I've got some pear preserves that I'm going to use today. It's your old-fashioned pear preserves, and I've got a video making those. My pear preserves had just a little bit of liquid in there, so I cooked them down just a little bit because I want them good and thick. I don't want a bunch of liquid in there. So I've got some of my hand pies ready, and in my iron skillet back here, I've got a couple inches of peanut oil. And I start mine out about 325 degrees. That seems to be just the right temp to fry pies, where they're not frying too fast. And you just keep rolling them out and making your pies. Now, make sure, regardless what kind of fruit you use, make sure that your pie filling or whatever you're using is not hot when you put it on that crust. You make sure that it's good and cool. I tell you, these pear preserves turned out so good, and these are about 2 years old. I've got a neighbor that is so nice, and him and his wife let us come and get pears off their pear trees, because if we don't, he knows the deer's going to eat them up. And I went and got them, and some of them weren't exactly ripe. So what I done is I wrapped them in newspaper, and we set them back till they ripened up a little bit, and then I canned a bunch of them. And they are so, so good. And our pie's frying up really good. I done flipped it over. Now, this little skillet's not real big. It's about a 10 inch. But these are going to be big hand pies. They would have made them this big because it would have been their lunch, their only lunch. So what we're used to making as fried pies to eat or to sell or whatever, they're much smaller than this. But these are your bigger ones that they would have took for lunch. And these are good and brown. Now I've got some cinnamon sugar that I've got here. And I'm just going to sprinkle that on top while it's still hot. And that right there is what you call gilding the lily. That just tops it off. They're so good. So I'm going to continue to make my pies and cook them up. I'll leave a link down below to the video where I'm making my pear preserves. And the thing about that recipe, you can use the same recipe for putting your apples up. And I also have a video putting apples up. The way I put it up is I just love putting up that way, and I'll leave a link to that too. And so many people have used that canning recipe and say they absolutely love it. And it's just a way of doing it's an old-fashioned way of putting apples up, and you can do pears that way too, that when you open the jar, they're still crispy, and you can just eat them right out of the jar. So we got our hand pies done, and you can see how big they are, y'all. But I made 6 of them. I'm going to put the rest of the dough in the freezer for later. Oh my goodness, they smell so good, and I cannot wait to taste them. But I sprinkled all of them with a little bit of sugar and cinnamon while they's hot. And you can see how they're not perfect, but I absolutely love this fried dough, and it's just delicious. All that extra dough is so good. So I hope y'all like this recipe, and I hope y'all try it because it's easy and you will love it. Use any kind of filling you want. Do y'all remember Grandma's good old fried chicken? Well, that's what we're doing today. Frying up some simple, old-fashioned Grandma's fried chicken. We're going to start off with, I've just got chicken legs today. That's pretty much my favorite besides the wings part of the chicken. But I had 2 packages of chicken legs. So pretty much when Grandma would fry up chicken, she wouldn't really season it much, but she would salt and pepper the raw chicken before she rolled it in her flour. She didn't soak it in buttermilk, and she didn't roll it in egg or milk or anything before she put her flour on. It was just pretty simple flour with a little bit of seasoning, not much, and put straight into the hot grease. And it's the best fried chicken. Of course, I love that good deep fried chicken. I've done several videos on frying chicken and battering that chicken up and deep frying it. It's really good too. Now I've got my Wagner chicken fryer here that y'all seen in a video that I bought the other day at a flea market. Excellent condition. And we are fixing to fry some chicken in it. And I've got about 2 inches of grease in there. Well, peanut oil is what I'm using. I've got a couple cups of just all-purpose flour. You can use self-rising if that's what you've got. It really doesn't matter. And self-rising sometimes comes out a little bit crispier, crunchier than all-purpose because it's got, of course, it already has your salt, but it's also got your baking powder and stuff in it, and that just helps with the crunchiness in it. So I'm putting just a little bit of salt and pepper in here. Now, I'm going to add a few ingredients that Grandma didn't add, but she did add salt and pepper, and she always put a little bit of poultry seasoning in the flour mix. For some reason, that just gives fried chicken a really good taste. But I'm also going to add a little bit of garlic powder, probably about a teaspoon. And that was probably about a good tablespoon of poultry seasoning. And I'm going to add a little bit of parsley, dried parsley. And I'm just going to stir that up good. And we're just going to coat our chicken legs in this flour mixture. Put just a little bit more parsley in it. But she always got a really good scald on her fried chicken. And that's what I like. And I think for our side dishes today, instead of mashed potatoes, I've got some rice cooked up. And I think I was born in Texas and lived there till I was 13 years old. And I absolutely love rice, any kind of rice. But one of the things we ate down there was rice and gravy. Where up here in Arkansas, it was potatoes and gravy. So we're going to take our chicken and we're just going to coat it up good. I can remember Danny's grandma, Gladys, and I've talked about this before. She always killed her own chickens, and, you know, she just let her little chickens run around. They weren't just certain, you know, meat chickens. It was whatever chickens she had and raised, and they'd be running around back there. Some of them she kept for laying eggs. The others she'd let get about, I don't know, just a couple pounds is all. She didn't let them chickens get very big before she would butcher one, put it in the freezer, or she'd butcher one and fry it up that night. So my grease is good and hot. I test it with just a little bit of flour. I don't like to overcrowd my chicken when I'm frying it. When I'm frying it like this. So I'm just going to put probably 4 or 5 pieces of chicken legs in here. And Danny's grandma, she didn't deep fry her chicken either. She just put a little bit of lard in her pan and she'd fry it up. So we're going to let this get good and brown on one side. It's going to take probably about 6 minutes or so. So I've turned it over, and now that it's brown on that side and I've turned it over, we're going to cover it up. I need to get me a different lid for this skillet. We're going to cover it up for a few minutes, and that's going to help that meat inside cook real good. It's going to let it steam and cook. So here is our fried chicken and our rice and gravy, and I've got some peas and carrots. And that chicken is so good, and it reminds me of Grandma's, and it reminds me of Grandma Gladys's chicken. So good. Well, it was time to get out there and start trimming back some of the herbs and some of my mint. Of course, I dry it and make tea out of it. Garden mint is one of the healthiest plants, herbs you can grow out in your garden. You can make teas and tinctures and make your own mint, make you some oil, put it in your, sometimes I'll put it in my facial oils and just give it a little bit of boost, and it's so good for your complexion. I love to drink mint tea, cold mint tea in the summertime. It's so refreshing, and mint, and I've said this 100 times, if you drink quite a bit of mint tea, it is so good for your complexion and a lot of different other reasons. I went ahead and trimmed some of the dill back. I've got lots of dill seed, so I didn't really need it to go to seed, but I will be using a lot of dill this summer for sure. Some oregano, a little bit of rosemary, my purple basil. Some of this, the chives come out of my Greenstalk, kind of give it a haircut. Over here I've got my lemon thyme. That's a Greek oregano. This is one of them. There's 2 different oreganos here. I can't remember which is which. And then this here is just your regular garden thyme, but the other was my lemon thyme, which I love. But it was just time to kind of give stuff a little haircut. And I could even go out there and get more, but this is just what I got this morning. I'm going to tie it up, and I just hang it here in the house. Now, I do have a mesh hanging dehydrator out in my greenhouse, and I could go out there and put all of it in there, and within just a couple of days it would be totally dry. And you really had to watch it, because it out there in that greenhouse gets so hot that you can kind of burn your herbs up. So I guess some people wouldn't want to do this, but I love doing it. And not only that, when you walk in my house, you smell all these different herbs, and I just love it. But I just hang them around. There's my mint, basil, rosemary, dill. There's some thyme, some more mint, oregano, a little stem of garden sage there that was in my Greenstalk, and it was getting taller than the rest of it, kind of hanging over. So I thought I'll just take you in and dry you out and put you up. Right there's my Thai basil. It's drying really good. But I do. That's how I normally dry my herbs, because I go out and I harvest them as they're getting, taller and need to be harvested, especially if I'm not wanting them to bloom and go to seed and all that. So I'll just bring them in and hang them and let them dry, and they dry really good in this cabin. And I just hang them pretty much anywhere. You can see right there, there's my chives hanging in the window. Then over here, I already had some lemon thyme hanging up, and it's good and dry. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to get it ready and get it put in with my other lemon thyme in a jar. And then this is what I harvested today, the lemon thyme, and I hung it up. This is some parsley and a little bit of dill that I hung up just yesterday, I think. This was some oregano, and it's dry, it's ready. There is some mint right there that's ready. This is some of the new mint, and this mint back here is ready. And then you can see I went out there, I guess, to water something, and picked a little piece of purple basil, and that's how I'm drying it. So, you can dry herbs. It's not hard. It's very easy to do. And I like doing it the old-fashioned way. If you got room in your house, I'm telling you, it makes your house smell so good. And to me, I just think it's pretty. But y'all know how I am about stuff like that. But you can also dehydrate them in a dehydrator. I choose not to use my electric dehydrator much, except when it's necessary, because it uses electricity. And we know that electricity's high. But anyways, I guess I could turn a light on in here, couldn't I? But that's just me taking care of herbs today. If you don't do anything but grow herbs in containers, windowsill, whatever, you'll never have to buy any kind of herb or spices for your pantry, whether if you use it fresh or if you dry it out. I mean, I can go through here and I can make all the Italian seasoning I need with just what I've got. In years I haven't went and just bought a big bulk of oregano or basil or rosemary or thyme, because I grow it. And even my sage, there's a lot. My lemon balm, I grow a lot of it because I put it in vinegar, and I just put the whole plant in the vinegar, and I just keep it in there, and I make my cleaners out of it. But anyways, I just wanted to show you that I was picking herbs today. So y'all grow you some herbs, whether if you do it big or do it little. Grow it on your porch in buckets or containers, or you do it in the windowsill. Herbs are I just love them. And they have a lot of some of them have good medicinal value to them, and when you go out and you're messing around in your garden and you can smell all these herbs, it just kindly, your stress level just kindly goes away. So I highly recommend growing you some herbs. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. It's just some little pieces of our life. And we'll see y'all in a couple of days. God bless everybody. We love y'all.